Yo, what's up, y'all? Blue Moon Extra Time. I promised y'all this is Nightmare Baller 1. Again, the ever changing room. We got this mattress. It goes on my lady's grandma's bed. This is her old mattress. She has dementia. We don't know where to put it because one minute she wants it, the next minute she don't. She has a new mattress. It just alternates everywhere. So you're gonna see it in different positions because she had it on the bed. Now she don't want it on the bed. She wanted a new mattress on the bed. That's what dementia does to you. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here and formally talk about Thunderbolts as well as a very late Stardom All Star Grand Queendom review. Probably not in depth, and also give quick thoughts about some of the WWE releases as well. Well, probably not because we're probably going to talk about that on Blue Moon. So I probably won't talk about that, but yeah, we'll probably talk about that on Blue Moon. The also fucking shit, Duntaku, wrestling Duntaku weekend. And I definitely won't go match by match for that because it really ain't much to talk about. But let's start with the nitty gritty. Thunderbolts. I thought Thunderbolts was a great movie. I thought that it was very, very important for the MCU going forward to establish pretty much the mission statement with how the government views the Avengers at the current time. I thought that was good. I thought that was well done. I thought that the idea of the Avengers being a band of misfits is really, really good. I thought that the Thunderbolts being a band of misfits because eventually they become the new Avengers in the movie. Some of the things that I heard they cut from the movie. A good example is apparently the director said that Baron Zemo was supposed to be in this movie, and I really don't know where he fits in because if you know what I'm saying, if you have him in this movie, it's just pretty much because the movie's called Thunderbolts. And honestly, it's kind of weird to have the origin of the in general to have the origin of the Thunderbolts in the MCU, just in general, without having Baron Zemo. Because the one thing that I was worried about is because the original Thunderbolts run, right? The first issue of Thunderbolts #1, written all those years ago by Kurt Busiek, is one of the greatest comic book issues of all time. If you do not know, the Avengers are gone, the Fantastic Four are gone, all the heroes are gone. I won't get into it. A threat happens, and these new band of heroes show up and stop the threat. The world loves them because they save everybody. Everything is all built, joy, and everyone's happy because these new band of heroes are here because the Avengers are no longer here and all these other heroes are gone, and this new group is here to save us. Citizen V and his other heroes are here to save us. And it's like, what's going on? Who are these characters that we've never seen before? And then you find out at the end, Citizen V goes, everything is going according to plan. The world, is exactly where we want them to be. Good work, my masters of evil. And he takes off his mask and is Baron Zemo. One of the most shocking reveals in comic book history. And you find out that all of these new characters, these Thunderbolts, are the masters of evil in disguise. Fucking amazing. Now, you can't do that in the MCU because for all of the things that I loved about the MCU when it was really cooking, the biggest problem was the villains, period. All of the villains, for the most part, have all stunk, with the exception of Loki. I thought Zemo was good, especially using subsequent viewings or whatever of Civil War, and the way they used him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He was one of the highlights of that show. John Walker, who was in Thunderbolts, very, very good. You know what I mean? But for the most part, most of the villains, Namor, obviously, Killmonger, obviously, the actual Mandarin was good in Shang-Chi. but there's not a whole lot. Like them, I can't remember exactly how many movies there have been of the MCU. It's been a ton, but you could probably pull out like 7 or 8 that, good villains. 10 if you want to be generous. You know what I mean? There's not a whole lot though. You know what I mean? That are memorable, that are good. You know what I mean? I say Namor. Namor is one. Killmonger. I said like that. That's it. There's not many. There's not many, and not a whole lot of them come off that threatening. So you couldn't do the original Thunderbolt story. So they went the other route where they did the government controlling these group of, and a lot of times in the comics it's villains, but not all the time, but group of heroes / villains that nobody wants, nobody pays attention to, where the government gets them all together for a common goal. And a lot of times they have like a hero that fucking watches them and governs them. You know what I mean? That's what they leaned into. And they kind of did it here where like they all get together by pretty much a common enemy who turns out to be Allegra LaFontaine. It ends up being her, you know what I mean? Which, that character also has a lot of ties to the Thunderbolts throughout the comics, and I thought that was well done too. Just being able to appease people like me, as well as the movie-going audience that has been disillusioned with the MCU. At the same time, they did both. They honestly took a lot of elements from the things that people don't like about the current MCU, and but they took the best parts of them and put them all in this movie. You know what I mean? It was. I thought it was smart, and at the same time throwing me little Easter eggs like that's for you, here you go, that's for you. I thought that was good. So they went that route. They went the government sanctioned, even though they weren't sanctioned yet in the movie, like group, right? And remember how I told you they have like a hero that the government likes and all that stuff, that is the centerpiece to make sure they keep all of the Thunderbolts in check. There's been times where it's been Luke Cage and just different people, right? In this movie, it was Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, because they weren't officially a group until he joins the group. You know what I mean? I thought that was really clever too, as a full circle moment for that character. You know what I mean? Because we know what he's gone through. Brainwashed, made to do all this different shit, and now he's, a fucking senator. He works in the government, and he gave them credibility. This guy with this checkered past gave them credibility. Thought that was good, man. My favorite thing about the movie, though, my absolute favorite thing about the movie, is the way they use Bob the Sentry. Because that is a character that I have never fucking liked. My entire life, ever since he was introduced, I didn't like him then. And now the way Marvel has used him for like the past 20 years, I have not liked the Sentry. Because the way they use that character is never about the character. He's a goddamn MacGuffin. He's always... If we're in a situation that we cannot get out of, and not even in a good way, like a character like Franklin Richards, right? Like Franklin Richards is that done well, where like the story plays out, whatever the story may be, plays out how it is, and then they introduce Franklin at the right time, and whatever he does will drastically change the status quo, whatever the story is, or whatever. The way they use him is almost always perfect. With the Sentry, the story is told and we're at the resolution. So in case of emergency and whatever the threat or villain is may be too powerful, break the Bob glass. You know what I mean? Because we have nothing else clever to come up with other than the fact he can do whatever we need him to do. You know what I mean? And they used to do that with Superman sometimes, but it was worse. It's worse with the Sentry. You know what I mean? It's almost like he's not even a character. So I grew to hate that character. The best example of this is one of my favorite Marvel stories of all time, World War Hulk. Planet Hulk, World War Hulk, you put them all together, right? If you don't know the story of Planet Hulk, they kind of told it in Ragnarok, where the Illuminati, which is a shadow group of different heroes across the Marvel universe that come together and they make decisions outside of what the rest of the heroes know. They decided to trap the Hulk in a space shuttle and send him to a faraway planet, right? And he goes to that planet. He crash lands on this planet. He becomes like the champion of the people because the king is like this evil tyrant. He falls in love. He meets a woman. They get married. All this stuff. And then, shockingly, the shuttle that he came in on fucking explodes and kills everybody on the planet. So he and some of the friends he made on this planet while liberating it all come together, and he goes, "Hey, I'm going to Earth to get revenge on these motherfuckers that did me dirty. Because you send me this place and I'm actually happy for once. And then you kill the woman I love and all the people that I love in this place. So I'm going to Earth for revenge." So he comes back and he's super focused. He's the maddest he's ever been, but also, as a result, the most focused he's ever been. So he looks fucking unstoppable. From a brute force standpoint, nobody can stop the Hulk. You know what I mean? I'm not just saying the line that he says in the comic, but no one can stop the Hulk until they break that sentry glass. Until they go, how are we gonna solve this problem? Not a character break the Bob glass. You know what I mean? It was always just and then at this point, this is the Hulk, the most powerful he's ever been. Focused to the point that Colossus, with the power of the Sidorak, with the Juggernaut's power, can't do shit against this man. You know what I mean? He's the most powerful he's ever been. But somehow Bob, because the writers established that he's unstoppable, he can do whatever we need him to. They very lazily have him but change the Hulk from Banner. You know what I mean? Just by brute force. And that's how they solve it. That's just one example. That's just one example of how they use him in the most laziest ways. So I've never liked this character. But in Thunderbolts, in this movie, the focus of Bob was his character. The fact that for the Sentry to exist, the Void has to exist. And the Void is his dark subconscious. It's him. It's pretty much the internal battle that this mentally unstable man fights with himself and constantly tries to keep at bay. He rarely uses the power of the Sentry, in the comics at least. And it looks like that's the route they're going in the MCU, which is awesome. That he rarely uses the power of the Sentry because he knows the Void is always around the corner. And when he uses the power of the Sentry, he also feeds this dark part of himself. I fucking love that. You know what I mean? That is good. But that has never been the focus of this character. But the motherfuckers, the people that worked on the Netflix show Beef, great show, by the way, they probably did research on this character and went, wait a minute, why don't people ever focus on this more? And that's what they did. Because that part of him is actually really cool. And I thought, great performance by, I can't remember the motherfucker's name right now, but that guy, great performance by him, and great way of conveying the internal struggle of that character. You know what I mean? I loved all that, and it elevated this movie from being a fun popcorn flick for me to actually a great movie. Like if I had to rate it, I'd give it like 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked that movie, and this movie also drove home the fact of something that I've always said since I was a kid, that Yelena Belova is the superior Black Widow in terms of writing, in terms of characterization, even down to the way she looks. She's just a better character. And Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova gives a better performance than Scarlett Johansson did, and as Natasha Romanoff, because Natasha Romanoff and Scarlett Johansson is not that great of an actress. Fucking Florence Pugh is a great actress. Scarlett Johansson's been great a few times, but Florence Pugh is a great actress, and it just overall translates to her being the better character. And I even thought that back in the day when, since her inception, man, because Yelena's whole thing is that she is the enemy of the Black Widow. Whatever side Natasha ends up on, Yelena in the comics, Yelena always ends up on the opposite. And a lot of times, she actually ends up being the heroic one and not, when she was working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and shit like that. She ends up being the heroic one. The one with actual morals, you know what I mean? The one with a code. Because Black Widow is unlikable as fuck. She's generic spy lady that will do whatever it takes to be, to get whatever she needs done. And you would think that would be interesting, right? But the problem is that the way she's written is like she's not even written as a character. She's always written as like the trope. You know what I mean? Fuck the character, the trope. You know what I mean? And I've always had issues with how she's portrayed, but fucking Yelena, you know what I mean, is actually depth to her. It's layers to Yelena. And fucking Florence Pugh in this movie, the fact that like it wasn't just about like stopping the threat. It was like my sister is dead, and I reconciled with Clint Barton, the man I thought was responsible. I realized he wasn't. Because I needed something to blame. At that time, I needed something to blame, right? And now I know things just happen and I have no one to blame. And now I have to live with the fact that I have fucking nobody that I call friend, that I'm tight with, all that stuff. You know what I mean? I thought I would get that from Red Guardian, her dad, you know what I mean? But he ended up being distant after everything happened with, you know what I'm saying? Instead of him drawing himself in and being closer to her, he ended up being more distant to her when she needed someone, you know what I mean? Because now she don't have her sister, you know what I mean, who is legit like a extension of her in the MCU. So and like even in the comics, like even though Yelena and Natasha are enemies, right? They both came from the Red Room, they both all that stuff, right? One cannot exist without the other, you know what I mean? And the Marvel comics kind of, it's almost like Batman Joker. You know what I mean? Like one cannot exist without the other. So like if one of them were ever killed off, you know what I mean? And that happened a couple times. The other one is worse for it, storytelling wise. You know what I mean? So like they did that also in this, for niggas like me in this movie. You know what I mean? And just her struggle was so interesting. It's something that the MCU does not always do. Because the MCU, they're always more concerned about getting the jokes off, man. And this movie, they had something to say. They got the jokes off. And a lot of them were funny. But the mental health of the characters and the mind state of these characters that have all been fucking fucked with by, if you follow the characters in the MCU, right, that have all been fucked with by whether it's the government or their superiors or whoever, you know what I mean? That is the focus of the movie. You know what I mean? The John Walker, legit, Wyatt Russell is John Walker. That's to me U.S. agent bought to life, because they couldn't do right wing, over the top kind of a dick John Walker, right? Couldn't do that, because I don't think you really get away with that in today's day and age in film. So what they did was they just leaned into the fact that this motherfucker don't understand how to deal with people, because just his home life, the fact that like the government thrust the title of Captain America on him without him having any powers or anything like that, after we're coming off fucking Steve Rogers, you know what I mean? Literally the greatest man to ever live. He has to live up with that. Niggas don't even know who he is, you know what I mean? So it made him go crazy and try experimental super soldier serum that ended up turning him into a super soldier, but also made him more violent and volatile. You know what I mean? That's what happened. And like as a result, you know what I mean? The nigga lost everyone. Like he lost everyone. You know what I'm saying? He lost everyone. His wife, his kid, all that shit. You know what I mean? His homeboy died in his homeboy Battlestar, which is a character I hate, by the way. I hate, even in that show, he wasn't even a character at all. In the comics, I hate that character. But his homeboy Battlestar, gone. You know what I mean? Dead. You know what I mean? And then his wife and kids leave. So, you know what I mean? They focused on that. Ghost, who, if you saw Ant-Man and the Wasp, you know what I mean? Engineered to be this fucking machine that robs and steals and kills and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Not even a real fucking person. You know what I mean? But you know what's funny though? How I thought she was underdeveloped in that movie. You know what I mean? And even though like she had like this tragic backstory that they didn't really even delve into in Ant-Man and the Wasp, they did enough here to make her likable. You know what I mean? So I'm like, bro, what went wrong in Ant-Man? It's just a lesser movie, but what went wrong there when they, you know what I'm saying, they gave her more time in that, and she had less time in here, and she came off infinitely more likable. Listen. To me, and Red Guardian's always a blast, and his struggle too with the thing of needing to feel necessary. You know what I mean? Wanting to feel important. You know what I'm saying? That was also good too. The only thing that stops me from going higher with this movie is just the pacing, right? Like it's just like there's a couple times where like characters need to say the obvious thing. It's an MCU problem, but it was noticeable in here. Characters need to say the obvious thing to advance the plot instead of just letting the plot happen. That's the only reason I didn't go higher with it. But yeah, like in terms of themes not usually tackled in the MCU and characterization and just fun factor overall, I had a blast with this movie, man. And it was way better than I thought it would be. And also, I'm going to say it again. I've said it before. I said it on Snapchat. I say it every time I get a chance. I really believe that Bucky Barnes is the best written character in the MCU. And even beyond, like, you know, just like how he's written, I think Sebastian Stan is a very underrated casting of the Winter Soldier. Because, I said this on Snapchat, but it's true. Like, Robert Downey Jr. is obvious, right? Like it's just with the struggle that he had in his actual life and the struggles that Tony Stark had, especially at the time period they casted him, like Tony Stark in the comics, in the time period they casted fucking Robert Downey Jr. Very similar struggles, very similar past, right? Very great casting. You know what I mean? Incredible casting, obviously, iconic casting. I don't really count Hugh Jackman as Wolverine because that's a totally different thing. That's like the Fox and all that stuff. I'm just talking about the MCU. The MCU. Other than fucking Tony Stark, fucking Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, I think Sebastian Stan is like, in terms of bringing a character to life, is like the best. Because reading fucking my favorite Captain America story of all time, one of my top 10 superhero stories of all time, reading The Winter Soldier, right? And just seeing Bucky's mannerisms, how he was in that story, how like the way they wrote him is almost like a force of nature when he was like, you know what I mean, brainwashed and all that stuff. The way he portrayed himself as like the baddest dude walking in the comic, you know what I mean? And like how he ended up in that movie, The Winter Soldier, and like even like life after that in the comics, where like is him struggling with the brainwashing that he went through with Hydra, and like still being able to tap into what made him the Winter Soldier, even though he doesn't always want to go to that dark place. You know what I mean? That is essentially what he is in the MCU. That's exactly what he is in the comics. The way he sounds, the way he's like his I know it sounds like I'm dick riding, but I'm just being honest. Like he does like if you ever read he does such a great job, man. Like I even think like his casting as like the Winter Soldier is even better than like Chris Evans as Captain America. That's how good I think he is as the Winter, you know what I mean? Like just his mannerisms, all that stuff. It's like almost like when I saw Pattinson as in the Batman, right? Like people talk about his Bruce Wayne, right? And that's a whole nother. I think they're going to develop that. I think that's going to be different in the sequels and all the other movies, right? But him as a Batman, though, have we ever seen somebody portray Batman better than that? You know what I mean? Where like he goes in the room, he surveys a room the way Batman does. He knows things before motherfuckers can even say them. You know what I mean? The way he fights, where he quarters off sections. I'm a nerd about this shit, y'all. I'm a nerd for real. Where he quarters off section of guys and he takes out the sections of guys the way that Batman does in the comics. Like the way he's portrayed him, that's fucking Batman. You know what I mean? Like, people talk about who's the best live action Batman. Michael Keaton, who's good. Christian Bale, who's also good. You know what I mean? Ben Affleck, who's also good, by the way. Don't let motherfuckers lie to you. You know, all these people, right? It's fucking Robert Pattinson. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Because he felt the most like Batman. You know what I mean? But people say other stuff, it's like, cool. You know what I mean? Cool. But you don't know what you're talking about. I don't mean to be an asshole, but you don't know. Like, it's Robert Pattinson, you know what I mean? And the way I feel watching, like, fucking Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, it's the same type of feeling, bro. I'm like, is this motherfucker just ripped right from the page and put on my screen, bro? It's mind blowing to me how well he portrays that character straight from the books. It's fucking mind blowing to me, bro. He props to him, but yeah, and his writing too, like his struggle. His struggle is the most interesting to me of everybody in the MCU, because he knows and remembers all the terrible shit he did, but he couldn't do anything about it. And he has to interact with some of the people that he's wronged in the past. You know what I mean? To me, it's the most interesting art. And even in this, even though he kind of played like a background role, his struggle is you know, trying life after fucking Steve Rogers and trying to have something else after that. You know what I mean? And then he fucking badass. You know what I mean? Some of the coolest scenes in the movie is just, I for lack of a better term, I am a stan for Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier. I really am. Like, fucking amazing. It doesn't hurt. It's one of my favorite books of all time. But all in all, Thunderbolts, man. Even the after credit scene was very interesting, and also something that gets you excited about what's coming later, because there were so many things. I'm assuming that's a scene from Doomsday. I'm assuming, but there were so many things said in that. Whether Doomsday turns out good or not, I don't know. But there were so many things said in that made you go, "Oh, what's that about?" Like, why is Sam Wilson mad that, like, they're calling themselves the New Avengers? Why the fuck would he care? You know what I mean? Maybe because he don't trust what's called Allegra. Maybe that's what's going on. Valentina. Maybe it's because he don't trust her. Maybe, I don't know, but we will find out. That was cool. And then, you know, the credits spoiled like the plane, because if you look at the credits as they're rolling as you're waiting, it says Fantastic Four opening theme. So you know, okay, it's gonna be some sort of Fantastic Four thing, and like, I think it's becoming more and more obvious what their deal is in that movie. I feel like the entire movie will be them pretty much trying to save their Earth and unable to do it, and them coming to warn everybody about Galactus, blah, blah, blah. But before Galactus comes, Doctor Doom is a threat for whatever reason. That's what I think, you know, obviously is what's happening. But, you know, I can't wait for that too, because every time I see that trailer, cool stuff, man. When I saw the movie, back to back, we got Fantastic Four and then Superman. Those trailers back to back. And look, man, James Gunn, if you fuck this movie, I'm gonna be so mad, bro. Because every time, clearly, you understand Superman. Because if that trailer's any indication, you understand what Superman means, the gravitas of Superman, who he is, what he does, what makes him special. In just one trailer, more than almost any other person I've seen adapt Superman in just one trailer. Not counting like animation and things like that. Except maybe Richard Donner. That's a totally different thing. But like modern day, in just one trailer, I'm like, yo, this feels like goddamn Superman. I get chills every time I watch that trailer. But if this movie is bad, if y'all motherfuckers are here for me going crazy on Blue Moon and shit like that, Blue Moon Extra, and probably with my boy True Slayer, Josh, that Blue Moon episode that we do, listen, if he fucks this up, because Josh is more worried than me. I'm a gun fan, Josh isn't, you know what I mean? He's more worried than I am. I think so far I'm very encouraged just by his DC stuff. Like, Peacemaker is fucking great, and it was great before he, you know, took over the reins of everything. I really liked the Suicide Squad. I know some people didn't. A lot of people did, though. More people did than did it. Josh. Also, you know, I really liked what's it called Creature Commandos. Even though I didn't at first, I ended up really liking it. You know what I mean? So right now, I'm pretty positive about his DC stuff. But man, Superman ain't good, boy. Listen, ooh, that rant. But honestly, if Superman ain't good, I'm gonna be mad. I'm gonna be hollering. I'm gonna be screaming. That rant's gonna be crazy. But if Lanterns ain't good, listen, I've waited my entire life for Lanterns, for this in live action. They are doing a fucking cop movie with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart solving a mystery while simultaneously dealing with Sinestro. This is something that I've wanted my entire life in live action since I was a fucking kid. And at least since high school. At least since Hal Jordan came back in Rebirth. At least since the 9th grade. Or was it 10th grade? I don't know. But I was in high school. At least since that, I've wanted this. I even wanted them to do something like this in the comics, and they never quite did this in the comics. And it's like elements of, like, this show is like elements of a bunch of other, like, stories they've done. Like the buddy cop stuff is Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns, right? That's what that is with Jon Stewart, and Kyle Rayner was in that too, and Guy Gardner was in that too. And apparently he's in this show as well, in addition to Superman. But like in Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns, their whole thing was on. I'm babbling. Now we talking about DC stuff. The whole thing was that they were together and they were trying to find out this mystery of who was stealing power from the power battery. I don't want to ruin it. It's the whole thing because it ends up being something crazy later to where they have to use all the different colors of the spectrum and they become lanterns of different colors. It's kind of nuts, right? I don't want to ruin all that, but it's good stuff. And like that's like one element of this clearly with, like, you know, because it was kind of grounded too, even though it was in space. They weren't like, it wasn't a whole lot of big space battles and stuff. It was like the mystery, like who is responsible for this. Hal Jordan fights Sinestro all the time. Jon Stewart, not so much. You know what I mean? They're both fighting him in this. You know what I mean? He's in this. You know what I mean? That's cool. So there are so many elements, because if you can't tell, I'm a huge Green Lantern fan. There's so many elements of this that is everything that I want from a Green Lantern property, right? If they fuck it up, though, y'all, if they fuck it up, man, I already had to, in my mind, after I saw that Ryan Reynolds movie in the theater, I was telling myself in my head, oh, it's not that bad. It's not, this is me, you know, because I just want a good Green Lantern property. Because, look, Batman's my favorite DC superhero. Captain America's my favorite Marvel superhero. My second favorite DC superhero is Hal Jordan. You know what I mean? It's Hal Jordan. So, like, bro, if they fuck this up, man. The casting is good. Everything about it seems good. The creative team, these motherfuckers can be trusted. If this one is bad, if that one is bad, the Superman rant will be crazy. If that one is bad, though, whew, I might get canceled. But yeah. So all in all, that's the comic book stuff. Go see Thunderbolts. Support Superman when it comes out if it looks good. Fantastic Four looks good. Really curious about what they do with Franklin Richards. Really curious, is he going to be the reboot for everything? And I'll talk more about that later. So, you know, whatever, that's the whole thing. But the other thing I want to talk about in Blue Moon Extra, because we're not going to talk about it on the flagship. Whoa, we're not going to talk. Sorry, Joe and Rich. We're not going to talk about it on Blue Moon Blue Moon proper. Jesus Christ, is Stardom All-Star Grand Queendom. Very late. This show is like old as fuck now. Feels like a million years ago, guys. But I wanted to talk about it because I never did formally. I think this is the show of the year. I think there are so many great matches on this show, so many great moments, so many things that will be felt in not just in this company, but it will reverberate around all of Joshi for years and years and years and years to come. This is a historical show. The last show of Mayu Iwatani in Stardom. I'm going to repeat that. The last show of Mayu Iwatani in Stardom. Think about modern New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? And think about Hiroshi Tanahashi's farewell tour. They have rightfully treated it like one of the biggest things to ever happen in the history of the company, because it is one of the biggest things to ever happen in the history of the company. Tanahashi is one of the 10 most important figures in the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You could argue top 5. You could argue top 2 if you wanted to. You really could. You know what I mean? He's that important to the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I will go as far as to say that Mayu Iwatani, if not the most important just wrestler, I'm talking about I'm not talking about like office figure and all that stuff. I'm talking about merely wrestler, right? If not the most important wrestler in the history of Stardom, she's 2 or 3. Like it's not too many people I put ahead of her, because the boom for Stardom. I know they had Julia on top at one point, Tam Nakano, and I'll get to her at one point. And still, even this show, Tam Nakano, I'm talking about the modern boom. You know, all these people, you know what I mean? They tried Micah at the time, all these people, right? Mayu, even not being at the very top, was consistently the biggest draw over here in the U.S. for them, you know what I mean? And one of the biggest draws in that company, you know what I mean? Because I remember the first time they did the show 2 years ago, right? And people were saying that, oh man, Mercedes Moné drew that big ass house, right? Which is crazy, and I'll address that too. But which, you know, it's a big ass house, and I'm sure she had something to do with it. The Mayu and Mercedes match, big part of why that house drew, like 100%. But Mayu, you know what I mean, is the one thing that stayed and one person left and the company grew. Just saying, like, you know, even if you believe that. But really the drawing match on that show was, I don't know, the feud they built for like 4 years. 3 years. Tam Nakano and Julia. but you know, if you want to get at to it, it's Mayu, bro. It's Mayu so consistently there and so consistently important to the history of that company. So she left. It was her last show in Stardom. And she went out on a huge note, because it's one of the greatest matches in the history of the company that they had. And the only reason I didn't go perfect 5 stars on that match is because of a botched Poison Rana. of Mayu's Poison Rana that she goes for, the double springboard Poison Rana. They botched it. Had they not botched it, your boy would have went 5 on that. That's the only reason I didn't. Fucking phenomenal match. Because Shuri, Mayu Iwatani, 2 of the best women's wrestlers in the world. 2 of the best women's wrestlers in the world. And then you instantly set up Sareee versus Shuri, which was one of the best matches of the year, period. And they're doing a rematch for the IWGP Women's World Heavyweight Championship. Right out of that show. You know what I mean? From that show. You had Starlight Kid and Azumi, you know what I mean, rekindling their long rivalry in the biggest show Stardom's ever put on, in front of the most eyes they ever had, and they fucking killed it. And they had a very different match than what you would expect from them. You know what I mean? It told a story. It was slowed down. It was ground to a halt. All that stuff. Drama, big bombs, all of that. You know what I mean? Another great fucking match. I went 4.25 stars on it. You know what I mean? I'm not going through the whole card, but like, that was another fucking great match. Just all back to back, just fucking phenomenal stuff. And then, you know, before I even get to that main event, the stuff in the undercard, the stuff I didn't even bring up, whole undercard is fine, but like the standout stuff, Suzu Suzuki and fucking, who was that? God damn it, my fucking Jesus Christ. Oh my god, that show feel like it was a million years ago. The no DQ match. Give me 1 second, because I should have had this ready. Oh my goodness, no DQ. Yeah, May Sarah. Yeah, that match, fucking phenomenal. You know what I mean? Bloody, violent. All of that, you know what I mean? Not a whole lot of plunder, any of that stuff. It's just 2 people beating the shit out of each other. You know what I mean? A match I'll remember just for the risk that they took and how hard they were hitting each other. All of that shit. Fucking great. Fucking great match. And I just got a text. But yeah, that match. You know what I mean? Fucking the tag title match, which was, again, different from what you would expect. People expect, like, when you see Stardom tag match, you know what I mean? It's go, 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 go. They didn't do any of that stuff either. They even told, like, everything built upon each other, bro. I wish they would have got a little more time to cook. But, like, they even did, like, the old school, like, you know, trading heat segments, bro. They did that. You know what I mean? Because these women are the most talented women on the planet. Say what you want about the house style of Stardom, because I get it. I understand the complaints. You know what I mean? Some people say that it's more about being flashy than actually, you know, working a match and hurting each other. I can see your point. But one thing that I will say is this is the most talented, the most talented collection of women on the planet. Everybody from that roster, from the top to the bottom, whether you like the house style or not, they all can fucking do it well. Everybody on the roster. And every time I watch one of these big Joshi shows, I always think we overrate these women over here so much because they cannot touch these women. They cannot it's like people throw these girls in conversations that they really don't belong in, and it's really annoying. And you know who I'm talking about. I don't have to get specific. Anyone minus the ones that you think are the exceptions, because they are the exceptions. But all the other ones that people go, she's not that bad, she's not that bad, she's not that bad. They are that bad. Every single one that you go, she's not that bad. They are that bad. They definitely are that bad. It's just now, for some reason over here, when we judge these women, the baby gloves come out. But every time, I say this all the time, but it's true. But every time I watch one of these big shows with these women putting on effort that these women over here just do not put on, the bottom line is they can't fuck with them. They just can't. Like, I know it sounds elitist to say, but it's just the truth. It's like when I watch these matches, I'm like, yo, man, like these girls are just on another level. And these women that y'all like, that some of y'all go, she's not that bad, or, you know, she tries really hard. Who cares? She's not that good. Like, she's not that good. Whoever you're talking about, whoever, you know who the internet goes, oh, they're pretty good. They're never pretty good. They're never pretty good. They're never pretty good. But yeah, I always feel that way when I watch these big shows. But anyway, this is going long. Main event. Fucking Tam Nakano, Saya Kemitani, loser leaves pro wrestling forever. We all knew how it would end. And even during the match, right? During the match, there were like little moments where like, yo, I almost went 5 on this too, but I thought the finish was, I get why the finish was what it was. I understand what they were going for, but they reached the peak and they you know what I'm saying? And they did it at the cost of story. I understand, but you got the peak. Just go home. You know what I mean? But they didn't. And I know why. And then in the translation, Saya talks about that after the match. But man, like the little subtle storytelling without going into a straight fucking drama theater that like something like the WWE does, where like Saya is like struggling and she's upset because she wants to win, but also the human comes out of her where she's like, I'm about to retire someone who mentored me and meant a lot to my career and my life. You know what I mean? I'm about to retire this person. What the fuck? And then you had Tam, right? And then you had Tam, who in the entire match, right? She's like smiling and she's like, she's come to terms with the fact that this is it for her. She's going to try to win, you know what I mean, to prepare her former close friend and mentee, you know what I mean, because the story with those two, regardless of how you feel about hate and how like the run-ins and stuff, and we got none of that here, by the way, but regardless of how you feel about, you know, hate and the run-ins and all that, the story that's been told is like, yo, what is wrong with this girl? She's tripping, bro. She's tripping. She's nothing like the girl that I knew before. What the fuck? You know what I mean? But she knows, like, yo, this is it for me. So I'm going to leave behind, so you know what I'm saying, this performance, so this girl could be ready to carry this company when I'm going, because Tam's been the biggest star that they've had for the past couple years. You know, even I said Mayu's the most important, but you know what I'm saying? Just in general, Tam's been their ace. You know what I mean? So it's like, yo, I'm leaving this behind for you. and I'm gonna give you this performance. But like there were moments where like she's like going through pain and stuff, and like Saya's struggling and she's upset, she's crying, and like Tam's just laying on the mat smiling because she's like, I'm giving it my best, but I know this younger, stronger, is she younger? I don't know, but this stronger, well, she mentored her, but this stronger girl, this more seasoned girl, this girl that is at the top of her game right now, I can't beat her. I can't beat her, but I'm gonna give her the fight of her life. You know what I mean? Pro wrestling is beautiful, and then the post match that I won't ruin, that you just need to see. Pro wrestling is beautiful. When done correctly, pro wrestling is the most beautiful form of storytelling there is. And these two women showed you why only pro wrestling can do this shit. I think that show is a legendary show for Joshi. I really think, I'm really that fucking high on this show. I think it's in terms of the modern era, one of the greatest modern Joshi shows, probably the greatest to ever take place. Those women killed it all night. Even the undercard matches that were like, you know what I mean? There was a level of effort there all night though. You know what I mean? Level of effort all night. All those women killed it, and props to them. And you know, from this point forward, you know what I mean? The biggest crowd for a Joshi show, I think they said in like almost 20 years. You know what I mean? So listen, 7,000 people were there. They reported well over 7,000 people there. You know what I mean? So look. Just saying. The A pluses all around. Just A plus. A huge statement show for Joshi and for Stardom was that. You know what I mean? And my boy LV, who does his Vic, who does his like short reviews, who does like his short bite-sized reviews, he summed up what this show means and just what it is better than I ever could. So check his video out too. I might link it if I remember. If I forget, I'm sorry, Vic. And Dentaku. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. The first night is fine. It's a good show. I love the main event. Focused, bloody chaos. I love the main event. The finish with Ren and Gabe. Again, storytelling at its finest. Only pro wrestling can do that. You know what I mean? And I seen one complaint. I went for a quarter on it, by the way. I seen one complaint that people said that they went to each spot too quick. And that's cool. I understand, you know what I mean? But I love the chaos of it. I'm gonna remember this match, you know what I'm saying? Unlike the first one, when it was just too fucking long, when they did the rolling entrances and all that stuff. It's just nothing happening. This match was great storytelling to the point they made it seem important, and not for a couple blown spots. Gato, looking at you, I love the idea, but I would have went even higher on that too. Like it was a good mix of the story of trying to vanquish the House of Torture and get them out of Bullet Club, and also House of Torture doing their usual shenanigans, because the match wouldn't make any sense. I know people hate them. I don't particularly love their matches either, but I know it wouldn't have made any sense if they didn't get their shenanigans in. And all that stuff worked too. I fucking love this match, man. Everybody performed well. Evil is actually a really talented pro wrestler, but now he's leaned into the House of Torture stick that people forget that this guy is actually a talented pro wrestler. You know what I mean? In fact, I don't really like Ren that much, to be honest with you. That entire unit is a unit full of talented pro wrestlers. And I don't even think Ren's terrible. You know, there have been times where Ren's been really great. You know what I mean? Ren Narita been really great. But like, it's a group of talented pro wrestlers. It's just the stick is the stick, and we got to do it. You know what I mean? We got to do the stick. We got to get heat. Heat. And it was good. It was a great use of it finally. You know what I mean? It fucking made sense. I thought it was awesome. The second night, I feel like nothing's worth watching minus the main event. Nothing's worth watching minus the main event. Star-making performance for Callum Newman. I went 4.5 stars on it. I thought he really the best performance of his life. The only thing he needs to clean up, stop the Osprey-isms, bro. I understand why they want you to do it because you're his mentee and all that stuff. But you're not Will Ospreay. And also... and also just stop that and also slow down. I know your other gimmick is nobody can keep up with me, but there are times where you can't keep up with you. But once he does that, Callum Newman's gonna be special. He's very young, a prospect. He's like Nick Wayne in a lot of ways, where you know Nick Wayne's gonna be special when he starts to get bigger, when he gets older, when he understands psychology a bit more by getting older and wrestling more. That boy is the future. And Callum Newman, I feel the same way. Those two dudes it feels like they're destined for a big time program like 5-10 years from now, doesn't it? It feels like, and probably in somewhere like AEW, I would love if Callum Newman stayed in Japan like Will Ospreay did. And like maybe they did like a whole thing where like Callum Newman gets elevated as the top gaijin. And Nick Wayne is one of the top guys in AEW. And New Japan continues to grow because slowly but steadily they've been growing, after the pandemic. Nobody wants to bring that up because the narrative is, oh, they're failing and what are they going to do? Even though I did that for a while, but even though they made Yota Tsuji, they made David Finlay, they made Yuya Uemura, they made all these people, they seem, well, maybe not Yuya, but they made Yota Tsuji, they made Gabe Kidd, they made David Finlay, they have done this. And the attendance has been fine all year. Sometimes fucking great. Goto is a champion that legitimately draws. David Finlay and the War Dogs are an act that legitimately draws. The House of Torture feels okay houses. They're not, you know what I'm saying? So if you want to put them on a random main event or a random show that isn't that big, they're not going to kill the house. You know what I mean? Everybody knows Gabe Kidd is like one of the big stars coming. Yota Tsuji is made. You know what I mean? They've done their job. It's just never going to be the previous era because a lot of those guys in the previous era are once in a lifetime talents. But right now, New Japan, in terms of business standpoint, is doing pretty well. It's doing, especially here in America, is doing pretty well. You know what I'm saying? But either way, it feels like Callum Newman and Nick Wayne 10 years from now will be the hottest feud in pro wrestling, doesn't it? You know what I mean? At least one of them. Doesn't it feel that way? But yeah, man, both of those dudes, freaks of nature. Super young, super talented. But I'm getting out of here. See y'all probably tomorrow. I think we record tomorrow. I don't know. Do we record tomorrow? If we don't, I lied. But I'll see y'all. Peace.